Thanks for checking us out. This is Ed from 5'Oclock Garage. We are here at SEMA 2024, and we finally had a couple of minutes to sit down and talk with Chris Harris from the African American Automotive Association in the triple or quadruple A booth here, where we're displaying a couple of cars. So, Chris, you and I have known each other for a little while, couple of years. We were talking about our friendversary, which I think was 3 years now. Tomorrow.
Friendversary?
Yeah. Friendversary. Hey girl. So what you and I have never really done though is kind of dove deep and started from the beginning, man. So like, tell me, where'd you come up? Where'd you grow up? Tell me a little bit about the first third.
New York City kid, Harlem kid, wound up going to the suburbs of New York after I was getting in too much trouble. Parents was like, all right, your butt is out of here. So moved to Rockland County, shout out to Spring Valley. Always kind of into cars, loved playing with cars, tinkering with cars. I wasn't really the kid that was going out to clubs and partying. Like my good friend we were in his parents' garage acting like we knew how to weld and almost killing ourselves. Like we'd always tinker with cars. And, went to school, played ball, had a quick professional career. And then after that, I got into law enforcement. Was in law enforcement in New York. I worked on Rikers Island for almost a decade. And then after that, I decided I didn't want to do law enforcement anymore and pursue my dream of being in the automotive world. And so I literally kind of went online, went through Instagram and said, okay, I wanted to move to Florida. That was another dream of mine at the time. And I just found a company that it was a great idea. It was a nonprofit. I thought I could make it a bigger company. Reached out to the guy, say, hey, I think I can help you. And he's like, yeah, heard it all before. So I flew down there like 4 times to show him like, I'm serious, and got to know him, his event, brought into the company, and the company event, it existed 4 years before I got to it. And then in the year we were working with Universal Pictures and the Fast and the Furious brand. I took it from like a local Florida event to a national brand, and it went really, really well. But money changes people sometimes, so we bumped heads. I exited the business and went out on my own. And wound up becoming the general manager at Palm Beach International Raceway, which was kind of like my first real training day of the corporate aspect of the motorsports industry. So worked with IRG Sports and Entertainment. They owned Palm Beach, Memphis, Maryland. Learned a lot, but also really got to see the ugly side of the industry, because being one of the only black guys in the space, and living in Florida, and unfortunately a lot of crappy things people would say and try to do, they didn't want me in that position, but kind of excelled at it. And during that time, saw a documentary during the pandemic, Willie T. Ribs. He had his uppity, Adam Carolla did it. It was on Netflix. And at the end of it, there was a really quick blurb about the Black Racers Association. Got on Google. Like, what is this? Started to learn more about it, then started to search for organizations that mimicked what it was, and nothing existed that I could find. So I decided I wanted to create it. So at the time in 2020, I created the African American Racers Association. And the sole goal of the organization was to highlight the accomplishments of African Americans in the motorsports industry. That evolved into me being contacted by other people outside of racing, manufacturers, aftermarket companies, say, hey, kind of like what you're doing, how can we be a part of it? Through motorsports, I was connected to Demonology and Donkmaster. I helped him start some of his organizations and many other people, and I was like, I wanted to help people outside of my direct reach. So I wound up rebranding in 2023 to the African American Racers Association. Automotive Association. A lot of AAs, A's, R's going on. But African American Automotive Association. And so that evolved into not just being about racing, but now being about education and trying to get kids in inner cities and underrepresented communities the opportunity to learn about our industry. I was like, how am I gonna do that? So I used the motorsports as like the shiny thing to attract the kids and show them about the racing, driving, wrenching. But then, hey, if you don't have the talent to be a part of that, well, now there's a whole ecosystem around motorsports where it's art, design, legal, marketing, that you can still be connected to this. The industry needs you, right? So have the education curriculum in a number of schools, and really starting to flourish. But I was doing something I was doing it 100% myself. So just by the grace of an introduction that you gave to me to Joey, and that was supposed to be one thing, and it evolved into meeting my partner Kelly and Foxteca and Joey, and we created it within a month. We did a Detroit kickoff event, and now that allows the African American Automotive Association to just concentrate on education in the various schools. And then we combined with Kelly's Taste of Tech organization, which combines technology, it combines events for kids that are from these communities. So it's dope, like we'll have an event and then they'll go out to like a nice restaurant and eat. So it's in atmospheres that they typically feel like they don't belong. So now they're exposed to all of this and they understand like you have a place here, you belong here, now you can own it when you get to this next space. So did that, and then the Foxteca event, and so this is kind of where we are right now.
You know, I was thinking about this as well. Like I said last night, as we were meeting up, and it's kind of a big deal, and being part of the display this year has been super cool, and we really appreciate you know looping us in on this for sure. You know, who did you have any automotive influences early on, or was it just kind of is anyone that stuck out that you can think of, or was it just kind of you liked cars and it was a natural progression?
Yeah, I was never really, so my dad, growing up in New York, my dad was, you know, he had cars, but New York City at the time in the 80s is not really a big car culture when you get to racing and things of that nature. So my dad always had cars, and then he was a big NASCAR fan. So I hated it, didn't want to watch it, but I was always kind of in trouble as a kid. So he used to sit me down and say, watch this. I don't watch this crap, but I wound up being like in awe of Earnhardt Sr. So that's what kind of hooked me into motorsports and wanting to know more about cars. And I wouldn't say it was an influence, but that's kind of what just sucked me in. But I just always loved cars, and Fast and the Furious was a big piece of that. That movie kind of changed the game for a lot of us because we understand that street racing culture and understanding what that looks like. So that was like, okay, I really, really want to dig into this more. So,
was it just seeing the Fast and Furious, or were you looped into that? Did you have some part in one of those?
I was a fake racer, so my car wasn't fast. I had
to call it fake. We get it.
I had a '93 4-door Civic, B series. It was slow as dirt. So I'm half Puerto Rican also, so I had the typical loud exhaust. With I spray painted, the car was blue, and I spray painted all like the vents yellow because I had this blue and yellow theme going on, and I had like the eBay special Honda emblem that like lit up on the front of the car. It was horrible.
That blue and yellow is definitely a Puerto Rico thing.
Yes, absolutely.
It is.
It is.
I see it a lot, and I'm like, I don't know, not those two.
That was my baby though, and so like I remember in college, I went to Temple University. I played ball, and I used to just race. I would just race out there and just race. At the time, it wasn't like now where everybody's chasing time slips and stuff like that. You didn't even know what the guy had next to you. I would just pull up and race, and like 80% of the time I got beat, but I didn't care because it was kind of. But my coach got wind of it, and he threatened to take my scholarship if I didn't stop. And I called his bluff, like, I can take my scholarship. Well, he must have called my dad because one day I'm at football practice and I hear my car running down the street. Car's going down the street and I'm not in it. And I run to go see, just like anybody else, if you hear engine go off, and see my dad's truck in front of my car. So I knew it was over then. So that was just kind of my experience with the street racing culture. But Fast and the Furious was a little bit before that. So it's kind of like, it tied it all together for me and made it real.
But for those 16 seconds, he was free.
Might have been 23.
Damn. It was doing 8th mile.
Yeah, I might have timed out a couple of lights at the drag strip, honestly.
I remember running a 17 in my mom's Celica. Oh, boy, I thought that thing was hot.
Thought it was going.
Boy,
right?
that was it. That was it.
Well, so to this, this convergence of motorsports and people, it's something that I've always really loved about racing, is it becomes about the car, and it becomes about who's going to win, and it becomes about Ford guy, Chevy guy, and it becomes a whole lot less about everything else.
You know what though? I'm gonna be honest with you. I wish that was true. So it's true for individuals like you that don't look at it in that way. But unfortunately, just in the country that we're in, that doesn't hold true for a lot of people. And like, I remember I would attend racing events, and I hear stories of people that I interact with that would that would attend racing events, and you would be called the N-word, and you wouldn't be allowed into, and you would be treated a certain way. Even with me as the general manager of Palm Beach International Raceway, so this was like 2019.
Damn.
You know, bracket racers are coming in and having a problem. And one of my boys I hired, when I got the job, I hired him as a videographer because I wanted to change how media was done at the track. So he looks white, but he's Ecuadorian, right? So I'm helping somebody in the tower, and when I leave, you know, the guy speaking freely amongst the staff and calling me all sorts of N-words. He's like, Chris, that guy was N-bot. I was like, as long as he doesn't say it to my face. But that was the norm versus not being, more of my age group, it wasn't like that, but the older guys. So it does happen, and it sucks, but it's just a reality. And because you don't think that way, it's something that you're not necessarily exposed to. But you talk to a lot of brothers and sisters that are at these racetracks, there's a lot of grimy stuff that happens.
You know, I think that maybe I was just spoiled, man, because in Detroit, it's not like that.
That's awesome.
It's never been like that.
Yeah.
And maybe it's because I'm at my buddy Jay Peso's events from Peso Productions, and he's African American, and you know, it's a eclectic mix of everybody.
Yeah.
And man, it's just not like that. Which, like I said, it's one thing, like it might be that I'm spoiled, but it also gives me hope to see that can be everywhere else too.
100%.
Because we just don't do it like that in
I was in
Detroit.
Palm Beach County, Florida.
Imagine
That
that.
tells you all you need to know.
Right.
Confederate flags still driving around, and I get the cultural thing, but some of the people who are driving those trucks with the Confederate flags, they'll middle finger you, N-word you all day. So that's just the climate of that area. And it was a lot of not only did you have the racism in that area, but you had the economic differences too. Like you have $1 million mansions, in the block away you have shacks with dirt roads, right? So it's a really weird kind of space. It's a lot of the haves and the have-nots. And a lot of times people try to ignore the problems, and I always like to face the problems because we're never gonna get by. People say, oh, I don't see color. Well, you have to see color. You say you don't see color, to me, that's part of the problem. I'm not saying you're racist, but you have to acknowledge the differences of people to even understand that there is a difference and we can move past it. But to say, oh, I don't see color, like, no.
So what do you see that would be something that maybe we start to try to implement to try to make this a lot? Because I moved to Puerto Rico, and it's, I don't know if you've been there or not, but it's not, there's nothing like that there.
No,
everybody's
I got family
family.
there,
It doesn't matter what you look like, what you are. You know, how are they able to maintain that? And how do we try to implement that a little more here?
Well, I think, especially in these political times, some people may be triggered by this, but this is America. Like, if you just go through the beginning, this is what our country was built on. And a lot of times with education, there's been deliberate intentions on blocking the truth of our history, which is really dark, to not make us look as bad as what a lot of our history is. But then we have, like, you guys interviewing me, right? The friendships that we have. I have white guys in the African American Automotive Association booth, right? These are the things that we have to be the example and show and highlight what we're doing to eliminate. And some of these old dogs just got to die off. And it's just, it is what it is. Some people may not like that, but I think the next generation have a lot of hope in, because they're unapologetic about the nonsense, right? They want it to be exactly how it is in Detroit, because that's how they live their life. But we're in a weird place where some of the boomers are now starting to kind of like croak, and and some of them need to go, and the younger group are now coming up and saying, you guys need to get out of the way so we can do this the right way. And so you can't acknowledge the problem and fix the problem. You can't fix the problem unless you acknowledge there's a problem.
Right.
So just being the example and doing what we're doing is what's going to change it.
So two things come to mind. The first thing is we need to do a 4A's racing event right in the heart of that place in Florida, man. Let's do it up. I'll put the letters on the side of my car. We'll do the whole thing. That was the one thing. But the other thing you were saying is acknowledging the differences. And you know, the other thing about the Detroit area is, like, we have the largest Arabic population outside of the Middle East.
Yeah.
And on top of that, you know, just customers and friends, Albanian, Iraqi, Chaldean. Like it's a melting pot.
Mm-hmm.
It's really super cool. And you're right, the next generation. I told you this story, but my son, when he was 5 or 6, he's super intellectual, and he came home excited one day, and he said, "Dad," he said, I noticed something today." I said, "Man, what's up?" He said, "Did you ever notice that," it was when Barack Obama was in the office, and he said, "Do you ever notice that the president's skin is darker than ours?" I said, "Yeah, man, that's pretty cool, isn't it?" He said, "Yeah," and he went off and he did his thing.
Mm-hmm.
So he acknowledged it. He knows it, and that's cool.
And they don't care,
They
right?
didn't
The young
care.
generation, they don't care. They acknowledge the difference. But I feel like, and listen, throughout history, there's been a lot of things that happen to all sides and all shades of color.
Yep.
And I feel like, especially with the older generations, it's hard for some of them to let it go.
Mm-hmm.
Certain trips, like my grandmother, may she rest in peace, she's been gone for over 20 years now. But she used to tell me, if she can't use your comb, don't bring her home. Like, grandma, like
Wow.
but this is how she was raised.
Yeah.
She has stories of family members telling that they were actual slaves. So she hears those stories, so she's triggered by certain things. So I think what happens is, especially as African Americans in this country, I was on a panel today when the sister who is the head of motorsports for General Motors, she said when she first got involved in it, like NASCAR would trigger her because of all the misconceptions and just the treatment and the things that happen. Like even when you think about, Bubba Wallace in the news, some people say it's fake, some people say it's real, but it's just funny how it happened to happen in his booth. Regardless, right? But these are some of the things that trigger us here in this country that we love, right? I'm not trying to sound anti-American
Right.
at all, but this is the experience that's different for us, just like the experience for Asians are different, Arabics are different, Muslims, white males are different, white women are different. Like, we just have to respect the differences. I don't even have to agree. Somebody could be a diehard Trumper. I don't have to agree with you, and I don't have to hate you for it, right? And
Absolutely.
I think that's where we just have to kind of fix the whole damn problem of this country. But you have to acknowledge it. You can't shy away from it. You have to, I always say, the elephant in the room, I walk that elephant all around the room and tap everybody on the shoulder. Here's the elephant, how we gonna fix the problem?
Yep.
Yeah.
Couldn't agree more, man. And with like you said, as far as like election time, it's extremely divisive if people allow it to be.
Yeah.
But it's almost like that's what the plan is. They don't want you and me talking. They,
Yeah.
I say they. There's a contingent of somebody that doesn't want people talking. So they, start in with race is an easy divider, right? Gender's an easy divider,
Yeah.
real easy. And yeah, man. So it's out there. You're right. We do have to acknowledge it, but it doesn't mean we got to play along.
Don't have to play along. And both, listen, I've been a registered independent. I think both parties are out of their mind in their own way, right? So
Agreed.
it's kind of like,
Yeah.
we're all picking, no matter what it is, the lesser of two evils sometime, and
Yep.
we're looking for somebody to swoop in with a cape and save us, and it don't look like it happened in no time soon. So
I
it's
agree.
like,
But the crazy thing is, like, I remember back when I was coming up, and it wasn't that long ago, but it was kind of vote for who you vote for, and you don't ever talk about it.
mhm.
That was like the thing. Nobody
Yeah.
ever talked about it.
Yeah,
When did that become a normal thing
I know.
that people talk about it? It just seems like they're trying to make everything.
Yeah.
They want everybody to fight, but we got to be the bigger people on it.
Yeah.
You know?
I like the conversations, believe it or not. And they say religion and politics and something else you don't talk about. I enjoy hearing the conversations, but what I hate is when somebody's like, well, my opinion is right and is law, and that's it. Well, it's your opinion.
Well, you got to think that's a lot. That's a big thing I have an issue with. Like, so being a tuner,
Mhm.
I get a lot of tuners that are like, "Oh, this is how you do this. This is how you." I'm like, "Are you sure?" Well, yeah. This, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't say I know everything.
Yeah.
I'm really good at what I do,
Yeah.
but I mean, if you want to show me another way, no problem. But people are losing that open mind thing. People they want to batten down the hatches and just be like, "This is what it is,"
Yeah.
and it can't be like that. Everything's kind of got to be,
Yeah. But
Kinda
the
like Ed.
unifier is the cars, right? Like the dope thing about cars that I love is that you get everybody's different flavors. You get
Oh, yeah.
everybody's different interpretations. You have two of the same exact cars, but it'd be completely different.
when you
And
can
I
tell that by
love-
your spread here.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
if there was a DEI car show, this is it.
Yeah, right.
I mean,
No, this is
There's a-
really dope.
what is this, like a 6-cylinder they swapped out in the Demon?
Mhm.
Yep.
And we got EVs, We got twin turbo. I don't even know what that is, but it's really cool.
Porsche based.
You know, rally car. It's just,
You got a 2J.
it's cool because all of these seem like they would come from different, you know, different walks of life.
It hurts.
I'm gonna print out 2 pictures of Jay-Z and just
Yeah, 2 of them.
Two
Yep,
Jay-Z.
indeed.
I looked in there, I didn't see no Jay-Z's. I was like, man, what's wrong?
Jay-Z, man.
I got a frunk. It's the first Supra
That's right.
with a frunk. So
If you
know,
put an EV in the
you
back,
hear a SEMA,
yeah,
you know.
you put an EV in the back.
Yeah,
you
I just
love
got to
it.
put a Duracell battery in the back, and actually, it kind of
HP
works.
Tuner's
right?
got a controller for the EV.
Anyhow, so moving right along.
I just want to know more about, you know, how you help the kids, you know, using their creativity and letting them kind of get interested, mainly because that seems like something that's going away. Getting the younger generation into the cars and kind of into it at like a school level. But I know that you guys do stuff with that. I just wanted to touch on that before we ended it because I was really interested in it.
Yeah, so like I said, with the education curriculum, we're in a number of school systems around the country, and we expose kids through motorsports to our industry. Me and my partner Kelly, who Taste the Tech, she is from the Detroit area. She comes from the fashion industry, so she has a lot of design connections and through the automotive world. So what happens was we wound up getting 14 kids and literally did this whole project in 7 days, from thinking about it to getting it executed. And we got these kids over at CCS Design School. We got designers from Stellantis and from outside the industry to come in and work with these kids to design wraps for your Challenger and my Supra. So it's amazing because the kids don't even realize it, but like there's grown men who dream about having something at SEMA, and they're able to have their vehicles here displayed at SEMA and then the Detroit Auto Show. So for one, them to be a part of the process, for them to get professional design cues from people at Stellantis, and for those of you who don't know, Stellantis owns Dodge and Fiat, right? And then I think maybe something else. And then now have their design seen on the largest stage in automotive in North America. It's massive. And that's when you allow these kids to dream big, right?
Right.
They would have never thought they'd have the opportunity to do that. And it's our job to pay it forward and try to present it to them, because I have this opportunity. I have a booth here. So we're excited for them to see it at the Detroit Auto Show, but it's about the exposure, right? How do you know if you could do something unless you try it, right?
That's right.
And we have to have a higher responsibility as enthusiasts, as tuners, as builders, as CEO of companies, to reach down to these communities where they at, reach down to them, right? And let them know that it's okay to be who you are, expose them to the things that you know, and then elevate them up, right?
Yeah.
And that's how you're gonna get this industry to change. Because there's kids who don't care about owning a car, driving a car. They're okay with having an Uber, they're okay with riding bikes, scooters. So it's important, if we want our industry to thrive, that we get these kids involved.
So with that, anyway, you know, Chris, like I said, I really appreciate you bringing us in on this project. I really appreciate the, you know, being able to collab on the booth here, and you know, our accidental friendship. I don't believe in accidents at all. I don't believe in coincidences. You know, I think this was one of those things that was supposed to happen, and I'm grateful for it. So, you know, the other thing I was thinking about today is I'm looking forward to next year. I'm already looking forward to this, or whatever the next event is, whatever the next thing that we're doing, to do another design, bring in more kids, and you know, so that part of it I'm super excited for. So.
No, I'm glad to have you part of the family, man. A lot of people don't even realize, like, see, African American Automotive Association, but Fox Tech doesn't happen unless you make an introduction months prior, right? So it's about just all of us working together. I would have never met Kelly. I would have never met Joey. I'd had no business being in Detroit, right? So it's about all of us just working together, helping each other, and just making this place better.
Amen.
So I appreciate
Growing
it.
Thanks, man.